Some people were born to follow orders, and some were born to fix the world. The problem is when the one fixing it is wearing torn flip-flops and a ripped backpack. On that muggy Thursday morning, the executive elevator got stuck on the 14th floor, but it was in the basement garage where the story really began. A skinny boy with eyes bigger than his belly clutched the visitor badge so tightly it looked like he was holding onto it not to disappear. "Full name?" the receptionist asked without lifting her eyes from the screen. "Isaque da Silva Andrade. I'm the cleaning lady's son," he answered, trying to keep his chin up. "And what are you doing in the server room?" Silence. The boy looked at the ceiling, then at the floor, and pointed to the crumpled paper in his hand. "They told me to bring this. There's a mistake in the code. I saw it yesterday." The woman laughed. That kind of laugh that isn't funny, just full of disdain. "Right, the janitor's kid spotted a code error in a billion-dollar cybersecurity company. What's next? You're a hacker too? If you enjoy a good story, hit like and subscribe. Otherwise, you'll miss the rest of this tale. Now listen, the boy could have swallowed his pride. He could have gone home like any other, but he didn't. He stood there, paper in hand, and eyes saying more than his mouth. Luckily, at that exact moment, a man in a navy blue suit, slick-back hair and a serious face walked into the lobby. "What's going on here?" he asked. The receptionist didn't miss a beat. "The boy said he's here to review the server. Can you believe that? A kid acting like a programmer." The man looked directly at Isaque, eye to eye. There was no fear there, just something different, a quiet kind of courage. "Give me that paper," the man said. The boy handed it over carefully, like he was revealing a secret. The man read it, paused, furrowed his brow, read it again, and murmured a word no one expected to hear. "Shit." That's when the elevator unlocked. But the boy's world, my friend, it was just beginning to rise. And here's the thing, what was written on that paper would prevent the biggest data leak in the company's history. But no one knew that yet, except the boy. And maybe the man in the suit was starting to suspect it. Isaque should have been at school, but life, sometimes, throws a different curriculum. The man in the navy suit took the boy into the elevator. They went up, not to the lobby, but straight to the top floor. There, in a room full of monitors, security feeds and blinking codes, Isaque stood out like a dot on a whiteboard. The man sat down, pulled out a chair for him. "Sit. Now tell me exactly what you saw." Isaque opened the crumpled paper, pointed to a segment of the code. "Here. This script wasn't part of the last update. It loops a data extraction from the root server. That's not normal." The technician in the room, who had 2 diplomas on the wall, frowned. "Kid, that's just a system mirror for backups." "No, sir," Isaque replied. "It's a mirror, but it's open-ended, no authentication token. It can be pulled externally." Silence. The man, whose name was Venturini, the company's president, turned to the tech. "Is he right?" The tech typed, checked, typed again, and then slowly turned pale. "He's right." Venturini looked at the boy. "You said you saw this yesterday?" "Yes, sir. When I came with my mom. While she cleaned the hallway, I peeked into the room. The code was on the screen. I memorized it." "You memorized code?" The boy nodded. Venturini leaned back. "What's your name again?" "Isaque da Silva Andrade." Venturini picked up the phone, dialed a number. "Set up a secure scan. I want every open port and packet traced. And bring me someone from internal risk. Now." He hung up and looked at the boy again. "You might have just saved this company, kid." Isaque didn't know what to say. He just sat there, feet not touching the floor, backpack still on. Because when you grow up being ignored, you're not used to being seen. But from that moment on, the world would have no choice but to look at him. And that's how it started, my friend, with a USB drive in hand and a blinking screen like a panicked heartbeat. A 13-year-old boy found himself on the front lines of a digital war, standing alone on the right side of the trench. Venturini hung up the phone, slammed his palm on the table and shouted, "Someone's inside our system right now. They're in our network." Sweat was already dripping down his forehead, and the boy, still with his backpack on, said softly, They found the mirror. They're pulling everything. If we don't stop the real-time replication, in 5 minutes there's nothing left to save. The president turned, face pale. Then help me, kid. Isaque pulled the keyboard close, eyes locked on the code, fingers drumming like a snare. He typed commands like someone writing his own destiny. There's a way to trick the invader. How? We drop the production mirror and plug in a decoy server. They'll think they're still pulling data, but they'll be fishing air. You know what you're doing? I do. And if you trust me, I'll do it. Venturini hesitated, 2 seconds that felt like 2 centuries. Then he said, "Then hold this network, Isaque." And the boy held it. There, in a place of glass floors and power where people with his name never walked, a poor kid took the helm of the country's top cybersecurity firm. He typed, flipped ports, rerouted packets, scrambled logs. "They're trying to open yesterday's backup," he said. "What does that mean?" Venturini asked, pale. "It means we've got 40 seconds. The clock blinked in the corner of the screen. Every second was a live bomb. And then, in that silence, a click. The system froze. Then the screen flashed. "Connection lost. Network error." "Did it work?" the president asked, panting. Isaque smiled, a small, humble smile, but filled with something rare today. Dignity. "They fell into the trap. Now they're pulling old training data. Harmless." More. Venturini leaned back in his chair, put both hands on his face. "You just stopped the biggest data leak in this sector's history." "I just did what was right, sir." But Venturini shook his head, serious. "No, the right thing would have been someone like you being on this side from the beginning. The world's mistake is making people like you invisible." Then the door flew open. Security, directors, IT staff, everyone talking at once. "They're attacking the network." "Did we block them? Where did it come from?" And the president stood, took a step forward and pointed. "Don't worry, he blocked it." Everyone stared. No one understood. This boy saved the company from collapse, and if he hadn't shown up today, we'd be negotiating with criminals right now. Silence. "His name is Isaque, and from today on, he's no longer the cleaning lady's son. He's a member of our cybersecurity team, and will be paid as such." Someone laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Venturini's expression erased any doubt. "Oh, and one more thing," he added. "Anyone who laughs now is invited to leave." Isaque stood there, not knowing whether to smile or cry. He didn't know if it was a dream or the beginning of a whole new chapter. But what he didn't know, and no one else did either, was that things were about to take a very unexpected turn, because his name had already leaked to the world. They say when you do good, good comes back to you. But what they don't tell you is, the bigger the good you do, the louder the noise it makes in the dark. Overnight, and I mean literally overnight, Isaque's name started popping up everywhere. News reports, social media, WhatsApp groups, taxi radios, even bar counters. 13-year-old boy prevents mega leak in billion-dollar company. Janitor's son joins IT department. Child prodigy or well-crafted hoax? Yeah, because people can't see a miracle without trying to find the trick. Venturini tried to shield the boy, told him not to give interviews, not to answer emails, not to talk to the press. But it was too late. At school, there were cameras at the gate. In the poor neighborhood of Zona Norte, where the sewage barely worked, reporters in expensive shoes were tripping in the mud. Isaque's mother, Donna Marlene, didn't know whether to cry with pride or fear. "Are you sure you didn't do anything wrong, Isaque?" she asked, eyes anxious. "I just saw a mistake, Mom. I just wanted to help. It's just, some people don't like help, especially when it comes from someone they think isn't worth anything." And she was right. The following Monday, as Isaque walked through the company's employee entrance, with a badge and everything, 2 men in suits sat in a meeting room with Venturini. One was from the Fiscal Council. The other, no one really knew. He only introduced himself as an external consultant, but if you were paying attention, you'd see this guy wasn't there to congratulate anyone. "Mr. Venturini, we're concerned about this boy," he said dryly, like talking about a threat. "Concerned? Why?" Because it's not normal for a child to identify such a serious vulnerability. Either he was already accessing systems before, or someone is using him as a front. You're suggesting he helped create the flaw. I'm saying there may be interest behind this hero figure. Venturini remained silent, rage crawling up his spine. But the man went on. The boy has no training, no registration with any institution, no resume. The only thing he has is access now. And access, Mr. Venturini, means power. Down in the server room, Isaque worked quietly. No headphones, no candy, no phone. He studied every line of code like he was reading his future. Until, that same day, something strange appeared on his screen. Admin log. Access denied. External attempt failed 3 times. But he hadn't tried anything, and more than that, only he and the director had the password to that panel. He looked up. The nearby IT guy hadn't noticed. Isaque took a breath. Screenshot. Saved to a hidden folder, then kept working. But that message kept echoing in his mind like a warning. Someone on the inside is trying to take me down. Some people don't want the truth. They just want the lie to stay hidden. That night, the sky felt heavy. Not rain. Something else. A kind of silence that threatened. In the Villa das Pedras neighborhood, where light poles work when they feel like it, and roads have more holes than pavement, Isaque walked home with his backpack tight and his head burning. That server alert wouldn't leave his mind. 3 denied accesses, under his login, on the company's most sensitive panel. At home, Donna Marlene greeted him with reheated rice and a tired smile. How was work today, son? All good, Mom. I mean, mostly. She looked worried. What happened? Nothing serious. Just something strange. Looks like someone tried to hack the system using my name. She dropped the spoon. And you told anyone there? Not yet. Don't tell them, Isaque. But, Mom, I said don't. At least, not yet. He swallowed hard. But why? Because when a poor kid rises too fast, there's always someone ready to pull the rug, and if you say something's wrong, they'll say you are what's wrong. He looked down, but kept her warning deep in his heart. Because the world does spin, but it tilts against those without a fancy last name. The next morning, the mood at work had changed. The IT team was too quiet. The floor manager didn't say good morning, and even the coffee tasted like a warning. Isaque sat down, turned on the station, and a new notification popped up. Script executed at 3:14 a.m. Origin, internal IP. But the server room was locked at night, and he didn't have access after hours. Who did? 2 names appeared in the log, the lead technician and someone called AC. Incomplete name. Hidden account. Isaque wrote it down on paper, like recording a crime clue. Just then, the manager showed up behind him with a smile too polite to be real. Isaque, everything okay here? All good, sir. Great, because someone upstairs wants to talk to you. Now. The boy froze, went up. They took him to a glass room, where 2 men in dark suits with investigative eyes were waiting. You're Isaque, correct? Yes, sir. Do you know why you're here? Not exactly. We're reviewing system access. We detected unusual activity under your account. Can you confirm you were logged in yesterday at 3 a.m.? I was asleep, at home. Can you prove that? Isaque bit his lip. I'm just a kid, sir. I don't exactly have cameras in my bedroom. One of them wrote something down, looked at the other, nodded. For now, it's fine. But we ask that you surrender your badge temporarily. Security procedure. But No discussion, son. He handed it over and took the elevator down, with his soul in his hands. At the lobby, while waiting for his mum's shift to end, he received a folded note, discreetly handed by an IT intern. Isaque opened it. That AC guy is behind the original flaw. Be careful. They're trying to pin this on you. Don't say it was me. The handwriting was rushed, nervous. On the back, just one more line. You have to erase the logs before they erase you. Sometimes the world pushes you, and you only have 2 choices, fall or learn to fly before you hit the ground. That night, Isaque didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't even blink. He sat on the edge of his bed, holding the note, reading it over and over like trying to decide whether it was a warning, a threat, or both. His mother entered the room and immediately felt the weight in the air. "What is it now, my son? They're trying to blame me, Mom. They want to say I was the one who hacked the system. My God, but someone inside knows the truth. They left me this note. Said the system flaw wasn't an accident. It was planted on purpose. And the one who did it signs as AC. Donna Marlene sat beside him, holding the note by the corners of her fingers. AC, I've heard that name. Where? In hallway gossip. There's a guy named Arthur Cardoso. Always in a suit, fancy talker, but looks down on anyone in uniform. He works at the company. He's a consultant, always going in and out of Mr. Venturini's office. But no one knows what he really does. Isaque's heart began to race. Consultant, internal IP, midnight access, AC. The pieces were starting to fit. The next morning, Isaque didn't go to school. He went straight to the local LAN house, the same one where he learned to program by watching loud tutorials on a mouse with no scroll wheel. He sat in the back, plugged in a hidden USB, and accessed the secret backup he had made of the company logs. Each line of code was a strand of memory, each access a clue, and buried deep among strings, scripts, and hidden folders, he found what no one wanted him to see: a duplicated protocol, a virus disguised as an update, and the name Arthur C. encoded in the creation string. The flaw wasn't a flaw, it was sabotage. Worse, the plan was to destroy the company's reputation, then sell them the fix. All staged, all dirty, and he, the janitor's kid, was meant to be the scapegoat. Just then, someone entered the LAN house. Heavy footsteps. The shop owner glanced up, puzzled. "Hey, Mr. Arthur? Need a station?" Isaque froze. Arthur. He came here? The boy pulled down his hoodie, saved the files to a smaller USB, and shoved it into his sock. Closed everything and stood up slowly. But before he could slip out the back door, he heard, "Hey, you." Isaque turned slightly. It was Arthur. Sharp suit, smooth face, cold eyes. "You're the little prodigy, right?" "I'm in a hurry, sir. In a hurry to erase evidence." "What?" "Listen carefully, kid. You've made enough noise. It's time to shut up, to forget, to disappear. I didn't do anything wrong. And who cares about that? The world doesn't care about truth. It cares about power." Arthur stepped closer. His voice dropped, cutting like glass. "Get out of here, boy, or you'll regret ever being smart." Isaque didn't answer, turned and walked away quickly, legs shaking, but heart on fire, because now he was sure the truth was real, and it was in his hand. But carrying the truth is sometimes more dangerous than a well-told lie. Some kids dream of bikes, others dream of video games. Isaque dreamed of seeing the ocean. He had never left Villa das Pedras, never felt the salty wind or heard waves crashing, only knew the sea from cracked phone screens when the neighbor's Wi-Fi worked. But that morning, he wasn't chasing the beach. He was running with a USB in his sock, his heart in his throat, and courage hanging by a thread. Donna Marlene cried as she saw her son packing. "Where are you going, son?" "I can't stay, Mom. They're trying to frame me. I need to find someone who'll listen, someone from the outside." "Isaque, I promise I'll come back, but I have to leave now before they disappear me." She held his face in her hands as if memorizing his scent, his touch, his soul. "Then take this," she said, handing him a tiny crucifix on a chain, the only gift from his father before prison. Isaque hugged her tight, like clinging to a harbor before the storm. He caught a bus to the next city with the money he'd saved fixing TVs and unlocking phones in the neighborhood. On the ride, his eyes watched the buildings, trains, graffiti-covered walls, and crowded intersections. The city was big, but the fear was bigger. Still, he had a mission. The plan was simple. Go to the tech-focused NGO he'd seen in a school documentary, people who expose cybercrimes and fight for justice behind the code. When he arrived, tired, clothes wrinkled, eyes steady, he went straight to the front desk. "I need to speak to someone. I have a report. It's urgent." The woman, surprised by his tone, hesitated. "You came alone?" Yes, and I don't have time. They're going to silence me. I have proof. She picked up the phone, called inside. We've got a strange case out here. 10 minutes later, a tall woman with a tight bun and sharp eyes came out. My name is Rebecca. I'm the legal director. Who are you? Isaque Andrade, and what I have here could bring down an empire. He pulled the USB from his sock and held it like it was a stick of dynamite. Rebecca brought him into a private room, booted the computer, asked him to explain. Isaque told her everything, showed logs, codes, dates, names, hidden flaws, and the name AC buried in the mess. Rebecca was silent. You know what you're saying? I do, and I know they'll try to shut me up. Why come here? Because everyone with power in there is bought. Only outsiders can hear me without fear. She took a deep breath, looked him in the eyes. You're braver than most men in suits I've ever met. We'll protect you. He almost cried, but held it in. Just promise me one thing. What? That when this is over, you'll show me the ocean. Rebecca smiled with a knot in her throat. I promise. The sun was already sinking behind the buildings, but in that cold little room, a new chapter was being written. Meanwhile, back at the company, Arthur Cardoso received a phone alert. The boy has disappeared. He smirked and spoke a phrase that would chill anyone. Then now, we find the mother. Some places smell different when you enter. Not perfume, but something that tightens the chest. A scent of danger, of bad things. That's what Donna Marlene felt when she came home and saw the front door ajar. The clothesline swayed without wind. The gate was barely shut. The living room light flickered alone, as if even the house knew something was wrong. She walked in slowly. Isaque, are you home? Silence. A few more steps. In the kitchen, her nightly water glass was clean, but not in its usual place. She knew someone had been there. She ran to Isaque's room, everything torn apart, backpack open, mattress lifted, books on the floor. My God, no! She screamed, clutching her chest. Suddenly a voice behind her, cold as a hospital floor. Looking for someone? She turned. It was him, Arthur Cardoso. Crisp suit, hands in pockets, the same smug smile of a man who never bets on a losing horse. What are you doing here? This is illegal. Illegal? I call it routine inspection. Leave now or I'm calling the police. Go ahead. And when they get here, let's see how they like what they find. You know how it is. Simple houses sometimes hide surprises. She understood the message. This wasn't a visit. It was a threat. What do you want with my son? Just to talk. Where is he? I don't know. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you. Arthur stepped closer, slow, like a snake who knows its poison. Your son is a problem, and problems are either solved or eliminated. She didn't flinch. Let me tell you something, Mr. Arthur. I've cleaned executive bathrooms for 20 years, heard things even the police wouldn't believe. I know how you people play dirty. But my son, he's different. He doesn't sell out, and he won't be silenced. Arthur clenched his jaw, annoyed. Stepped even closer. You really think people will believe a slum kid over a European consultant? If they don't believe him, they'll believe the data. He saved everything. That shook Arthur. He snapped his fingers. 2 men entered through the back door. The home security system couldn't even scare pigeons. Search. He's not here, but he may have left a gift. Donna Marlene screamed, tried to stop them. Was shoved, fell to the floor. Before losing consciousness, she saw Arthur's face leaning over hers. When Isaque returns, tell him time is running out. Hours later, the neighbor found her unconscious, blood trickling from her temple and eyes wide open, like she had seen hell knock. Meanwhile, across town, Rebecca received an urgent call from the NGO. They found the boy's house, broke in, the mother's in the hospital, and someone from the government requested server access. Rebecca clenched her fist. They're coming. What do? We release everything he found to the whole world. She clicked a button. Instantly the encrypted data started uploading, and Arthur Cardoso's secrets began spilling across the internet wires. Some stains don't wipe clean with a cloth. Some dirt runs so deep, only the truth can wash it like March rain. without asking permission. That morning, the country woke up different. Not politics, not soccer, not even the weather. It was a bombshell. Report reveals sabotage in cybersecurity firm, consultant accused of planned breach for profit. Published at 6:02 a.m., shared at 6:11, reposted over 400,000 times by 9 a.m. And in every screenshot, in every repost, one grainy photo came with the headline, "A boy, in flip-flops, holding a USB stick, Isaque. Some tears don't fall, they live inside us. Trapped in the throat, hiding in the corners of the eyes, weighing heavy on the chest." That afternoon, with the country in shock and headlines calling him a hero in capital letters, Isaque was quiet. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just stared at the ground, the old USB still in his pocket like a lucky charm. Rebecca tried to break the silence, but he was somewhere else. "You okay, Isaque?" He shook his head without looking up. "I'm just tired. You want to go home?" "I'm not even sure where home is anymore." She understood. Because when a kid grows up running from threats, even a roof can feel like a question mark. But right then, news came in, the one he most wanted to hear. "Your mum woke up. She's safe. She wants to see you." He stood as if struck by lightning, breathed in deep, whispered, "I just want to hug her." At the hospital, the room was simple. Thin sheets, peeling paint, smell of alcohol and soap. But inside, there was love. When Isaque walked in with timid steps and wary eyes, Donna Marlene opened her arms. "Come here, my son. Come to your mother's arms." And he did, without a word. He dove into her embrace like a little boy again. And in that hug, everything collapsed. No loud crying, no screams, just a quiet sob and a silence that hurt more than any word. She stroked his hair slowly. "You make me proud, Isaque." He shook his head. "I was afraid I'd lose you. And I was afraid you'd give up. But you held on, my son. And you won." They stayed like that for long minutes, as if time itself paused to let pain rest. Outside the hospital, reporters tried to capture images, but Rebecca stood guard, blocking, shielding, protecting. "He's just a boy. And he's going to stay one." Hours later, the NGO announced a new program, Isaque Project, Social Intelligence for Access and Qualification. A name in honor of the one who proved that talent doesn't have a zip code. The program would offer free training in coding, cybersecurity, and online ethics for youth across Brazil. And more, Isaque would be the first symbolic mentor. He was invited to speak at a launch event. At first, he refused. But later, in front of an auditorium full of students and teachers, he stepped onto the stage, stared at the mic, and said with steady voice, "I didn't come here to teach anything, just to say something my mom always told me. Those who were born with little can have a lot on the inside." Applause, tears in the audience. And he went on, "I'm not special. I just saw something wrong and chose not to pretend it was right." A girl in the crowd raised her hand. "Do you still want to see the ocean?" He smiled for the first time in days. "I do, but now I don't want to go alone." The next day, Rebecca took him and Donna Marlene to the coast. It was simple. No cameras, no spectacle. And when he stepped onto the sand, barefoot, felt the wind hit his face, the cold water touch his feet. He stood still, said nothing, but his eyes, they looked wet from the inside. The sea had calmed, but his soul hadn't. Isaque returned to the city with more questions than answers. Yes, the truth came out. Yes, his name was cleared. But then what? What comes after challenging the top of the world with a broken flip-flop? Back at the NGO, Rebecca asked for a private talk. "Isaque, people are going to come for you. They're offering scholarships, exchanges. A foundation in California emailed us wanting to meet you." "I'm not sure I want that." "Why not?" "Because I don't know who I am yet." Rebecca smiled kindly. "When you come from where you come from, it takes time to believe you deserve good things. But you do, okay? A lot." He nodded, eyes down. Then Rebecca pulled out an envelope from her purse. "This arrived this morning." Isaque took the envelope. No sender, just his name written by hand. Isaque da Silva Andrade. He opened it. Inside, a single sheet with a note. You found the hole, but not who dug it. The game isn't over. AC. Isaque froze. Arthur Cardoso was in prison, but not alone. Rebecca read it and turned pale. This means he had accomplices. It means the hole's deeper, and maybe the original flaw wasn't even the first. That's when the NGO system beeped. A red alert flashed on the screen. Unauthorized access attempt. Origin, masked internal address. Rebecca and Isaque rushed to the cyber defense room. They're trying to erase the case files, the technician said. Do we have backups? Rebecca asked. Isaque was already typing, rerouting data, creating cloud mirrors, replicating into hidden servers. Yes, everything's backed up. 3 cloud copies, 2 physical and 1 encrypted offshore. You did all that? He answered with a phrase that would humble any senior programmer. Heaven has backups too. Only those who copy what matters never lose it. The attack was blocked, but the warning was clear. Powerful people still wanted the case buried. People that maybe even Arthur didn't know, only by code. Later that day, with the NGO secure and files intact, Isaque visited his old school. When he arrived, it was a surprise. The principal cried. I never imagined that quiet kid in the back row would be today's headline. He smiled shyly. I'm still the same. No, Isaque. Now, you're a mirror for others. At the classroom door, students waited like they were seeing a superhero without a cape. A younger boy came up and asked, Is it true you almost got arrested? Almost. Were you scared? Isaque thought. I was, but I was more afraid of doing nothing. Before leaving, he pinned a note to the school bulletin board, using the same blue pen he always used in class. If you're reading this, it's because someone believed in you. Now it's your turn to believe. On the way out, he looked at the sky, whispered a quiet prayer, and pocketed Arthur's threatening note, not out of fear, but as a reminder, because he knew the battle was far from over. But now, he wasn't fighting alone. A month went by. The country moved on, as it always does. The headlines cooled, the scandal turned into statistics, and the suited men returned to their spreadsheets and expensive coffee. But on the city's margins, where buses stay packed and the future costs too much, Isaque's name still echoed through alleyways. On a wall in Villa das Pedras, someone spray-painted Isaque with a C but full of pride. He now lived between 2 worlds. In the morning, he studied at a top-tier school that gave him a full scholarship. In the afternoon, he taught coding at the NGO's community center. At night, he tried to sleep, but sleep ran shallow because his soul still hadn't stepped off the roller coaster. One night, Donna Marlene walked in and saw her son staring out the window. What are you thinking about, son? What comes after, Mom? After what? After everything. After the applause. After being forgotten. She sat beside him, held his hand tight. The world doesn't owe you remembrance, Isaque, but you owe yourself to keep going. He looked at her. Keep going how? By being a seed, son. A seed. You were thrown to the ground, trampled, threatened, and still grew. We don't choose to be a seed, but we choose whether to grow. He smiled. A real smile. One that never shows up in headlines. The next day, the NGO took him to an international congress. His first time on a plane. He boarded trembling, but with shining eyes. From the sky, he looked down and whispered, That's where I came from. Now I understand. Rebecca beside him asked, Understand what? That big problems seen from above are sometimes just parts of the map. At the event, global tech leaders awaited him. One executive approached and said, Isaque, you're a prodigy. Ever thought of working abroad with us? He nodded respectfully. Maybe someday, but right now I want to stay. There's still a lot wrong in my neighborhood. But you've done so much. Exactly, which means they now know it's possible. I'm not the exception. I'm the beginning. On stage, his talk was simple. I didn't go to a fancy school, learned code in a LAN house. But one thing I figured out early, the world is programmable. But we need to teach more people how to write the commands. Standing ovation. People from Japan, France, the US, all listening to a boy in flip-flops. At the end, A message lit up the screen behind him. If they try to erase you, don't be afraid. Sometimes the most important code is written in the dark. But that very night in the hotel lobby, Rebecca got a call. We found a secret account linked to the sabotage case. The money's coming from abroad, and the name involved is bigger than we thought. Who? Can't say over the phone. But Isaque's still in danger. The floor beneath her seemed to tilt. They want to silence him. No, they want to use him. Upstairs, Isaque got an anonymous email. Accept our offer, or the next seed won't grow. He stared at the screen, silent. Because sometimes the hardest fight isn't against the enemy. It's resisting being bought by the system, and he knew that better than anyone. The NGO had blown the lid. Codes, logs, screenshots, access records. The full digital timeline proving Arthur Cardoso had orchestrated the fraud. And the boy was the stone in his shoe, but the shoe ripped. At the company, chaos was visible. Emergency meetings, directors shouting, staff deleting old posts, and a silence from those sensing the empire was cracking. Venturini watched it all from behind glass, alone, eyes red, soul in shreds. He picked up the phone, called Rebecca. Is he with you? Yes. Is he okay? He is, but his mother's in the hospital. Beaten at home. They sent thugs. Silence. I should have protected them. You still can. The whole world is watching. What now? Now you choose what side of history you want to be on, Venturini. He stood up. Call everyone into a meeting. Board, press, shareholders. Today, noon. At the hospital, Donna Marlene woke with a swollen face and dizzy head. The nurse approached. Anyone we can notify? My son. He needs to know I'm alive. But before the message could be sent, the hospital phone rang. This is Trustgate's president's office. We're sending protection for patient Marlene Andrade immediately. Protection? Her life is at risk, and her son's too. 10 minutes later, 2 private security agents entered the hospital, armed, uniformed, with one mission: protect the woman who raised the boy who challenged the system. And at exactly 12 noon, the cameras turned on. Press conference. In front of microphones and flashes, President Venturini stepped up, took a deep breath, and said, "Today, I'm not here as an executive. I'm here as a man who failed to protect those who deserved it. A 13-year-old boy who didn't just save this company's data, he restored my faith in the future." The journalists fell silent. His name is Isaque da Silva Andrade, and as far as I'm concerned, that name will never be forgotten. At that moment, surveillance images began playing on a screen. The same files Rebecca and the NGO had released. Venturini continued, Arthur Cardoso, external consultant, has been removed and is under federal investigation. He orchestrated the biggest corporate fraud this sector has seen. Someone in the crowd shouted, "And the boy? He'll be officially hired, with salary, protection, and everything needed to study, grow, and build. He doesn't need charity. He needs recognition." In the back of the room, Rebecca watched the stream with Isaque beside her. The boy trembled. "I just wanted to see the ocean," he whispered. She laughed, teary-eyed. "And you showed the world there's an ocean inside you, boy." Across town, while the conference aired, Arthur Cardoso tried to flee from a luxury hotel garage, but it was too late. Federal police, handcuffs, and a line from the agent arresting him. "Did you know it was a 13-year-old kid who exposed you?" Arthur didn't answer, but in that moment, the world flipped upside down. Because, my friend, the truth doesn't flake off. It doesn't fade. It can't be erased by money. It waits. But when it comes, it crashes like a storm. He had always thought systems were just algorithms, lines of code, logic, programming. But that night, staring at the email threatening his life and dreams, Isaque realized a system is much more than code. It's who controls it, who profits from it, and who's afraid of those who don't belong in it. He closed the laptop, got up, looked at himself in the mirror, a poor boy from the back streets, barefoot in the data center, with no diploma or suit, but who had stood before giants and hadn't knelt. The next morning, Rebecca was waiting in the hotel lobby. "We need to go to the embassy. They traced the foreign account. The name is big." "Whose name?" She hesitated. "Venturini." Isaque stopped cold. "No, that's not possible. He believed in me. He defended me. Apparently, he was just the front. The real mind behind the sabotage was someone else. But the money moved through him. He's involved." Isaque sat down, stunned. Then something clicked in his mind. A memory. Venturini in the server room, looking at the code the first day and reacting too quickly. "I think he already knew about the flaw." Rebecca nodded. "That's what the investigators believe. He tried to cover up the flaw by turning you into the hero, but the plan spiraled out of control." Isaque clenched his fists. "They used me." Rebecca took his hand. "But you turned their trap into a bridge." Later that day, Isaque sent a message, one only Venturini would understand. "You built a system to exclude. I exposed the flaw. And the people, they're writing a new one." Within 48 hours, Venturini was arrested. Documents, messages, and deposits all confirmed the scheme. But Isaque didn't celebrate. He knew the root problem wasn't just Venturini. The system was built to bury talent under privilege, and his mission had only just begun. A few weeks later, at the new NGO headquarters, a journalist came to interview him. Young, curious, respectful. He brought a notebook, turned on the recorder, and asked the question that had yet to be asked. "Isaque, who taught you to fix the world?" Isaque smiled for the first time in a long time. "No one taught me to fix the world. They taught me to survive in it." "And how did that turn into fixing it?" He paused. "Because surviving wasn't enough. I saw too many people drown with their ideas, and I thought, if I know how to swim, why not bring someone to shore?" The journalist wrote, impressed. "What's your dream now?" "To make my neighborhood a coding school, to take computers to every alley, to give others the access I never had. And if you could leave a message for other kids in your position." He thought again, then said, "You are not a glitch. You are the update the world's been waiting for." The interview went viral. Across Brazil, in rural towns and big cities, thousands of kids saw themselves in that face with big eyes and a wise voice. And donations began to pour in, not just from corporations, from retirees, students, street vendors, people who had little and saw everything in him. Soon the NGO opened 3 new branches. The project became national, and the symbol, a blue flip-flop and a line of code drawn like a heartbeat. At the first graduation, Isaque gave a speech with a trembling voice. "My mother taught me that dignity has no price, and that wisdom is not about knowing everything, but knowing how to see what others ignore." Rebecca watched from the side, in tears. Donna Marlene, holding a bouquet, whispered, "That's my boy." And he was. But now he belonged to the world. Years later, the world changed, but some things didn't. Inequality still lived on every street. Corruption found new masks. And injustice kept learning how to log in. But something was different, because in a simple building in Vila das Pedras, generations of young people now wrote their first lines of code. Under a sign that read, "Centro de Inovação Isaque da Silva, Isaque da Silva Innovation Center." Isaque no longer lived there. He had gone on to study abroad, founded his own startup, spoke at the UN. But every year on the same date he returned, wore a simple shirt, sat in the classroom, and listened to the students. Because, as he once said, you stop learning the day you think you're the only teacher in the room. On one of these returns, he entered the old server room, now transformed into a museum of digital memory, and in the corner, a dusty CPU. Inside it, the original log file that started everything. He opened it, line by line, remembered every alert, every heartbeat. Every night he almost gave up. Then he found a file he didn't recognize, hidden, encrypted, titled Last Backup ISQ. He clicked. Inside, a single sentence. "If you're reading this, it's because you made it. Now teach others to get here too." He smiled, closed the file, and walked out the door. Because the real legacy isn't what you built. It's the code you leave behind for others to change the world.